Cleveland, to me, is the most interesting team. Well, maybe not the most interesting, but they're fascinating to me because I think this is the most important Cavs season since the 09-10 season. That was the year that LeBron was in a contract year and they had to do something. Turns out they didn't. And LeBron wound up leaving for Miami. They're in the second apron. I think they're the only team in the second apron right now. Kind of a quiet offseason. They bring in Lonzo Ball, Tyrese Proctor, Larry Nance Jr., Isaac Okoro is gone. Ty Jerome is gone. I just saw they lost Max Strus just the other day for 3 or 4 months. Hopefully they get him back somewhere around midseason because that's one of their weaknesses. But if there was a year that Cleveland was going to get to the finals, it's this one. You know, Boston is gone. Indiana is gone. Milwaukee is significantly weakened. Like, this is, to me, you know, win or a lot of changes could be coming Cleveland. That's why I make the comparison to 09-10. I'm not sure that they would go complete rebuild if they came up short this year, but given that they're in the second apron, given, you know, that some of the contracts they have on that team, we could see this team torn apart. So, like, those three teams are in my top tier, with Cleveland being having the most pressure on them, I think.
Well, I guess part of my question for you with this, and this is really much more of a factor in the East part of this discussion, are we talking about teams that, hey, if we have to pick 2 or 3 Eastern Conference teams, they're the top ones? Or are we talking about teams we actually think could win an NBA title in today's NBA?
I don't really think any of them can win an NBA title in today's NBA. I wouldn't take... to me, this is about getting to the finals in the East. Like, who can be the Eastern Conference representative?
Okay, because that's a different question.
Most likely get your clock cleaned by whoever comes out of the West.
Right. Okay, so I agree with you on all of those. I think Orlando is sort of, you know, in-house, sexy NBA media pick, right? I think we all see how much potential they have. I do worry a little bit because we always talk about this because it's true. It's very hard to do it the first time. And this would be the first time Orlando in so long, I mean, since what, 2009?
Dwight Howard years,
has been to even a conference finals. So to say that they would get all the way to the finals or even have a chance of winning, it's very hard. It's not impossible, but it's very hard to do all of that for the first time, all in one run. That being said, I mean, look, the Thunder just did a version of it. They had actually had a little more playoff success prior, but they went to their conference finals.
They had their trial by fire in the second round the year before. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what makes me nervous about putting Orlando in that group, but I completely agree with you. The talent is there. I thought the moves they made were excellent. You know, the biggest problem with that team was offense, and, well, it's an understatement, but you know what I mean, the ability to sort of not just score, but sort of create and all of the other things that they've had trouble doing. And I think they really now have the right people in place and the formula for that and good coaching and all of that stuff. I'm excited to have them be kind of in that top group. I just don't know if they can actually make it to a finals. I'm very bullish on the Knicks. Just because I think they have the combination now of sort of having gotten the roster a bit right. I like Mike Brown. I did not think they should have fired Thibodeau, as you know, but that's what's done is done, as they say. And I really like Mike Brown, and I think that he'll have a good touch there, and he has a demeanor that's going to go over well with the New York media, so that will be a little toned down. And they also have just enough experience and grit and sort of spark, all of those ingredients that I think can get you in those in-between moments, the stuff where it's not just X's and O's, where it's a little bit of, you know, how are we riding momentum? How are we getting the 50-50 balls? How do we work under pressure? I feel like they would be my top team in those categories, which are not nothing when you're talking about conference finals and finals. Cleveland, I feel like on paper has such a great sort of system and team, and obviously what Kenny's done there has been exceptional, and they were clockwork through the regular season last year. My question is about all those categories with the Cavaliers. Do you feel they have that sort of, not on paper, but crucial in the playoffs, spark, grit, determination, willingness to fight through difficult situations, endurance, confidence? Do you see that on that roster? I see it with Donovan, but I don't know if I see it with everyone else.
I see it. I saw more of it with Evan Mobley last year, who took a big step forward, who I don't think is done developing. I think he's going to continue to, you know, expand his game to become even better on the perimeter, which is going to take even more pressure off Mitchell, off Garland. And I guess some of my optimism about Cleveland is that just, again, the field isn't what it it was. Like, I don't think, like, there's no boogeyman out there like, oh my God, we got to go through Boston again. That's going to be tough. Like, oh my, like even Indiana, like, if they had come back fully healthy, I might have been fearful of them if I was Cleveland. But you don't, look, it's a couple of years ago, but they beat Orlando in a first round series a couple of years ago. They can beat New York. New York is not flawless. So I think it's about, as much about the field around them. And I think that they did the right thing. Like, I don't know what their situation is with Garland. About, you keep hearing about Garland being potentially moved. Hasn't happened as of yet. I think they did the right thing, largely keeping this team intact. I love the Lonzo addition.
I do too.
Look, he didn't play much last year, but at least he played. Right? He had been off for 2 full seasons prior to that.
And that kid has shown toughness.
Yeah, and look, they're not asking him to be a savior there, but if he can come in, defend multiple positions, give you around 30 minutes per game. That's exactly what they lost with someone like Ty Jerome, who's gone. They sacrificed some depth, and the Strus injury is going to put some pressure on that. They can't afford another one, and somebody else I think is going to have to step up on the back end of that bench. But I just think maintaining the status quo was the right thing to do. We saw it with Boston over the years. You're going to take some lumps along the way. The Cavs have taken a bunch of lumps. This feels like the year that they can get through it. I tend to agree with you with Orlando that there's, last year to me would have been the year that Orlando earned its stripes, so to speak, in the playoffs. But they lost Banchero too early. So many injuries there. Desmond Bane to me is round peg, round hole.
That's
for
what
that
I mean.
team.
I mean, it just feels like it's such a sea change offensively. It's kind of and defensively. But
wildly underrated player. Yeah. I think I saw this stat last year. Only 6 players averaged at least 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists per 36. They were Giannis, Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, and Desmond Bane. So it's pretty good company to be in, and they need exactly what he provides: ball handling, 3-point shooting. He is a remarkably consistent offensive player. So I think that's going to be perfect. When you get to the second round, going up against a more experienced team, could they have some problems in year one? Maybe. That would be my one concern. The Knicks, another team that largely kept it together, everybody's kind of excited about the Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele signings. I like that they didn't cost the Knicks really anything.
Yeah, I was
and the Knicks were like a 6
almost
team deep roster. So it's going to help because you've got usable NBA talent. Jordan Clarkson, though, as he's gotten older, his efficiency numbers have gone the wrong way. I think he was like 41% from the field last year. So I wouldn't expect the guy from 3 years ago to show up in New York. Great year for Yabusele last year. Is it sustainable? Like, he played 70 games and was at times the best player on Philadelphia. So, I just remember him from Boston, and he was anything more than kind of a bit player. So, what is he? Is he somewhere? Is he close to the guy he was in Philadelphia? Is he somewhere in between? I don't know, but I think getting those guys certainly helps, and bringing the band back together. OG took a big step in terms of proving his health was consistent last year. Brunson's still Brunson. We'll see what Mike Brown. I don't know. I mean, I like Mike Brown personally. Probably got a raw deal in Sacramento, but these are enormous expectations.
Doesn't everyone?
Yeah. So we'll talk about Sacramento in the next pod, but enormous expectations for Mike Brown. Well,
they basically said in the press release firing Thibodeau, they basically said we have championship expectations. Like that is word for word what they said. And you fire a guy who makes the conference finals and takes the team that took the champs to 7 games only because of an injury. I mean, there's a real argument that if, things had gone differently in Game 7 injury-wise, that Indiana would have won the title.
Yeah.
And because things were trending at least in that direction. And you have Tibbs that took them to 6 games against that team, and you said that wasn't good enough. So if that's not good enough, the expectations, to your point, are off the charts. And I agree. I mean, there's flaws, and I don't think any of these Eastern Conference teams are perfect. I'm curious about the crucible of New York with the new additions. Clarkson likes the spotlight. He hasn't really been in the spotlight for the last few years. Does that make you a little more lethargic on the court? Will he be a little more revived in New York? We'll just have to see. Or do guys start to shrink from it? Here's my in-betweener question between tiers for you. Am I actually more bullish on the Celtics than you are right now?
Yes, you are. We'll get into the Celtics in a minute. You are more bullish on the Celtics than I am. The last thing on the Knicks and Mike Brown's like, all the things come out of New York, like the collaboration stuff, like that's kind of a front office buzzword. Yeah. It's like they, maybe Tibbs was a little bit prickly there at times and wasn't as collaborative with the front office. But, fans don't really care about that. And diversifying the offense, which I've heard a lot about, that's good too. But the Knicks had the 5th best offense in the league last year.
They got to the conference finals and went to 6 games.
I know.
So if you want to know whether the strategy works, it works.
Yeah.
It worked. It happened. Like, this is what drove me. I mean, we don't have to relitigate Thibodeau, but like, the complaints we heard afterward filter out as sort of justifications for why he got fired. It kind of felt like with the Mavs and the Luka trade. But he also, he didn't run enough, and Tibbs didn't run enough end of game scenarios during training camp. That's what was one of the gripes against him.
Yeah.
He got to game 6 of the conference finals. And they beat the Boston team, Boston team. Yes, Tatum got injured, but they were well on their way to winning that series. I just, any of the quibbles with Tibbs are only on paper when you look at his track record and every year in New York what he did. And I can't get behind, oh, well, the offense wasn't as diverse, or this wasn't that, or he didn't communicate well with this, or whoever. Guess what? The evaluation on how much that stuff matters, we found out. It was on paper. We know it now. And so I don't buy any of it. But I do think Mike Brown will do okay there. I have faith in him there.